Welcome to ADHD Whiskey, my name is Matt. Today, we're celebrating a first on the channel and reviewing my very first media sample from Buffalo Trace. What did Buffalo Trace so kindly share with me? George T Stagg, 2023, BTAC, no big deal. Kind of a big deal if you ask me. Before we get into this 135 proof Buffalo Trace Antique Collection staple, let me first tell you about today's video sponsor. Today's video is brought to us by our great friends over at Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is the high-protein, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, wheat-free, naturally flavored, totally delicious, childlike cereal for grown-ups. And their flavors are like nostalgia in a box. Not only do I get a blast from the past, Magic Spoon's nutrition game, super solid. The peanut butter flavor, 0 grams total sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 14 grams of protein. It's the great taste you love with more protein and 0 grams of sugar. So no matter what type of lifestyle you live, Magic Spoon's gonna fuel you right. Magic Spoon has other great flavors as well, like cocoa, fruity, frosted, maple waffle, and more. And if you're on the go, they offer Magic Spoon treats in marshmallow and chocolate peanut butter flavor. And they are phenomenal. So don't be shy, order yourself some Magic Spoon today. Click on my first link in the description below. Go to magicspoon.com/ADHD or scan this QR code on the screen. Use code ADHD at checkout and you'll save $5 off your build your own variety box. That is delicious peanut butter satisfaction. Now that we've talked about a magic cereal, let's talk about a magic bourbon. Press release. Buffalo Trace Distillery is pleased to announce the return of its award-winning antique collection for the fall 2023 season, showcasing the products that best represents the distillery's exceptional craftsmanship and dedication to distilling high-quality, award-winning spirits. This year's portfolio includes all 5 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection staples: George T Stagg, Thomas H. Handy, Sazerac Rye 18, William LaRue Weller, and a milestone for this year, the oldest Eagle Rare 17-year-old bourbon in the collection's history. The spirits in the antique collection are aged and improved at the pinnacle of their flavor to embody the best possible expression of each whiskey. Each expression is stored in a unique crystal clear glass bottle to showcase its gorgeous color, complemented with a black label that provides a complete product story and description. The limited edition antique collection bottles are sold separately and will be available at retail in early October at a suggested retail price of $124.99, not including local taxes and fees. George T Stagg Bourbon at 135 proof. The 2023 George T Stagg offering was distilled in the spring of 2008, and its barrels were aged in warehouses CIKL&M. This powerful 15-year, 4-month-old bourbon is described as having scents of cinnamon and cherry. Let's get ourselves a pour of this George T Stagg, talk a little bit about availability and pricing, and then get down to a review, shall we? America. It does say in the press release that these bottles retail for $124.99, and if you can find yourself one for that price, then buy it. The antique collection from Buffalo Trace is obviously one of the most anticipated allocated bourbon releases of the year each and every year. George T Stagg, William LaRue Weller, and Eagle Rare 17 probably being the most sought after of the bunch. And although the press release says that there's a suggested retail price of $125, the likelihood that you're gonna stroll on into your local liquor retailer and pick up a bottle for that price is what I would consider to be slim to none. And by slim to none, I mean you probably have a better chance of being struck by a 1999 Ford SVT Lightning, driven by George T Stagg, rest his soul, himself. The way that the 3-tier system works isn't exactly fair to the end customer when it comes to getting bottles of bourbon that are allocated or limited. The distributor purchases the bottles from the distillery, and then what they do with them, nobody knows. But you would imagine that they would eventually get into a retailer's hands. And when the retailer gets a hold of them, what do they do with them? Nobody knows. George T Stagg is just an impossible bottle to find at retail. Have I ever owned a bottle of George T Stagg? No, I've not. You're probably sick of me talking already, so let's get into the nose of this George T Stagg and see how she goes. Wow. There is a note on here that hit me first. It struck me immediately. Like a deer wandering into Chicago traffic. It's sweet, it's oaky, it's cherry. It's also quite ethanol forward, but there is this very unique sweetness that's coming out of here that is definitely a berry or a cherry, but it's like altered from the traditional normal Buffalo Trace sweet vanilla cherry. This reminds me more of those really cheap chocolate covered cherries that you get at Christmas time from the Walmart that come in the box that are like, buy 6 boxes for 72 cents. Well, not in 2023. 2023, it's like, buy 6 boxes for $430. They come in like the little foil packets that you slide out of the box and you pop the chocolate cherry in your mouth. It's almost like an artificial raspberry cherry. Like if you fused a raspberry and cherry together and then put them into some sort of a cream formation and stuffed them inside of a chocolate, and then put that chocolate inside of like a charred oak box, and then filled that charred oak box with bourbon and closed it for like 15 years and 4 months, roughly. There is a very unique sweetness to this that I really enjoy. Let's go in for a taste of this 2023 135 proof, 15-year, 4-month-old George T Stagg. Down the hatch. Wow. Good gravy. Wow. Zow. Wow. Michael Phelps breaststroke, that's phenomenal. That is an experience. That is an experience. It is definitely a takeover bourbon. It enters your mouth and sets its flag directly in your tongue and says, I belong here, this is mine now, until I decide to leave. And it still hasn't left yet. It's still claiming that territory. It is very good. The unique red berry sweetness that I got on the nose transfers to the palate in the most unusual way. It's sharp and sweet. It's like a sharp, sweet oak with like a real tangy cherry or like a tangy raspberry, and it's right down the middle of the tongue. That is such a crazy good experience. Second sip. If you love super sweet, super high proof, well to extra aged bourbon, then this is gonna be right up your alley. Do I wish I could buy a bottle for $124.99 plus tax? Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, I cannot. Damn it. As much as I love it, there are some things that I wish were a bit different about it that would please me more. The oak comes through nicely, but I think that the oak might be like covered up a bit by the proof. What's funny is I'm not used to having 135 proof bourbon that's been aged for 15 plus years. To have something this high proof at that age is very unique. Does the proof cover up the age a little bit? I think it does. Is that a bad thing? Depends on who you ask. Super sweet and tangy cherry raspberry note that's in there plays really well with the proof, because an extra sweet bourbon at high proof is just like a stick of dynamite exploding in your mouth if that dynamite were made out of Australian red licorice. The oak is definitely there. It's definitely playing a great role in this bourbon, but it's playing second fiddle to the high proof cherry bomb. Do I think that the 2023 release of George T Stagg is amazing? Yes. Is it an incredibly complex pour that like shifts and changes and does a bunch of magic in your mouth that makes you wonder which direction it's gonna go next or what exciting adventure the next sip is gonna take you on? Not really. It's not a super complex changing bourbon. It's a prime Nolan Ryan fastball directly down the middle that you can't hit. And it is a crowd pleaser. Do I think it falls in the category of some of the best bourbon I have ever tasted? Maybe bordering on that. This bourbon is like a top fuel dragster. You get in, you put your helmet on and your fire suit, you buckle up into your harness, you pray to your Lord above, you tell your wife and kids you'll love them, and you let her rip. When you finally settle down a few minutes later and your heart stops beating out of your chest, you look around and go, I was the only one in that car, but damn it, I bet if you were watching me drink it, you were also impressed. Today I give George T Stagg Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey 2023 release a score of An 8.9. An 8.9 for George T Stagg. Bordering on some of the best bourbon I've ever tasted. Unfortunately, since I probably won't be able to get a bottle of this, George T Stagg will not be in the running for my bourbon or whiskey of the year. In order to qualify for those lists, I have to be able to acquire a bottle of that whiskey. So, unless I am able to acquire a bottle of George T Stagg, it will unfortunately not be in the running for my bourbon or whiskey of the year. If I got a bottle, would it deserve a spot? Yeah. Would it deserve a spot right at the top? Yeah. Thank you, Buffalo Trace, for sending the media sample. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you to all the viewers for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing and doing all the YouTube things. I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go scare the crap out of my kids in their bedroom. And then when they're done crying, I'm gonna tell them I love them and give them a kiss on the forehead. Good night, all.